guys, we all put our necks on the line at the beginning of the year, and we all said what we thought were going to be the big predictions. And at the beginning of the year, we made a prediction that multi-channel AVRs will be pushed aside in favor for more discrete two-channel setups. So, has this come to pass?
The power to tell a story is in us all. The power to change the way we feel, our understanding. Change the rules, how we see ourselves. Provoke. Change history. Together, let's change the bigger picture. Change access. Put camera gear in more hands and keep the story going. Buy, sell, and trade used camera gear. MPB.
I'm going to come to Ed first because Ed lives in the world of hi-fi, whereas everybody else lives in the world of AV. Let's see where our paths cross and where our thoughts converge. Ed, what's your thinking on this?
Well, I was just looking through I'm gloriously distracted because I was looking through the various predictions, not prescriptions being made. More affordable amplifiers with HDMI eARC that power on when the TV is switched on. Well, two channels got them. Consumers favor family-friendly simplicity, auto EQ setup and app control. Yes, that's just as applicable to my corner of the world as it is to multi-channel. In some regards, more so, because products that do have it are still in the minority and really do stand out against certain devices which have made no real concessions to how you use them in 30 or 40 years. Better living room aesthetics with reduced box count and fewer connections. Sort of. In my little corner of the world, this isn't following a logical path. Shortly, because it's been announced on the news story, shortly there'll be a review of the Wharfedale Super Linton, which is not small or compact, and you can question its living room aesthetics unless you live on the set of Heartbeat. But the normal Linton is Wharfedale's best-selling speaker, not their best-selling heritage speaker, their best-selling speaker. There is a move towards smaller and more elegant devices, but in two-channel, this is bookended by a number of people going, if I'm going to have a hi-fi system, I want it to look trad and be massive. So things are being pulled in two different directions. You can shrink your box count down to one if you want, but if you want to have many, many boxes, my word, are we happy to sell you many, many boxes. Providing a better quality solution for TV, movie content and music. Yeah. We're doing that too. Do we support Atmos and other things? With very few exceptions, it's still just two-channel PCM. But if you run two-channel PCM into a well-placed pair of loudspeakers, actually you can get some quite surprising results out of it. And surround sound from only two speakers will require virtual channels. Two-channel gets around this by not even trying. But I would question the actual listening experience of sitting with a pair of speakers with an 8-inch bass driver and a very wide baffle. You might be surprised at quite how immersive plain vanilla two-channel is under those circumstances. So yeah, your predictions could just have easily really have been my predictions.
Yep, absolutely. I think this is what we suggested right at the beginning of the year, that there's going to be massive crossover between two-channel, multi-channel, and technologies that have come around. One that really stands out, Ed, and it was an award winner in our Editor's Choice Awards as well, which we didn't talk about on video, and that was Canvas Hi-Fi.
Yes.
There you have something that looks like a soundbar, is big enough that it aesthetically looks amazing sat under a TV. It can be used as a TV stand, or it can be wall mounted with the TV. It connects it all together. It uses DSP via the back 3D system to give you amazingly wide sound that sounds like you've got two floor standers either side of the TV and surround. It does a fantastic effect there. So no, that's one product that we've seen this year, and there's been a few where it's starting to blur the lines between what is hi-fi, what is home cinema, what is this?
It's evolution. Ultimately, multi-channel is, I forgive this saying this in front of the multi-channel people, it's increasingly niche. The days of it being a sort of widespread business to have 5 or more speakers in a lounge, I think that's past us with the best will in the world. So there's this blurred area of items that are strictly speaking two channel, but then do varying degrees of either virtual surround or just ignoring it, but bring with them the niceties, the functionality, and the general behavior that we've seen in more recent AV products. There is the one thing that that two channel is taking from AV that it really needs to take from AV is a level of user friendliness and approachability that went ignored for years, and it's now permeating all the way up to high end two channel. It's no longer a prerequisite that you need to suffer for your art, and it is devices like Canvas, which is, let's face it, is not a cheap solution, which just fill in. It's the mortar in this wall of that bridges the gap between multi-channel and two-channel, and this is just yet another point of making that wall ever more solid.
Neil, let's jump to you. Completely opposite end of the market, uber high end systems and all the rest of it. But again, we had this conversation at the beginning of the year. Where does it fit in with you guys?
Well, I think it's actually pretty clear. One of the things that I'm really interested in at this minute in time is a concept that we call like passive viewing. So, you know, a lot of these spaces have got all of this technology now, and it's how does that technology help to create a feeling within a space? So, you know, we talk about a lot multi-channel or stereo or whatever else. What we're also starting to see is people being very interested in how that can change a space in its own right. And what that does is it changes your thinking, because if you're, you know, really only interested in the movie experience or the music experience like Ed was talking about there, you go for a pretty rigid layout. Much more, it's like neither of those two things specifically. They are just two of maybe several different use cases within the room itself. And I think that is probably a lot of companies like Canvas, I'll bet they see that very, very clearly. It's just quite a difficult concept to explain to people. But I definitely see that's how things are moving along. I guess the other thing that I see is the DSP continues to just get better and better and better. I don't know if you guys have heard the new Sonos soundbar so far. But again, that's leveraging some new technology that they were able to buy, those new little drivers and all of those types of things. So that sort of discrete technology still seems to be the holy grail, if we could say it that way. Performance and discrete combined together. I guess you don't need to have a crystal ball to predict those two things. It might be popular together, but that's certainly what we are still seeing, is that people are looking for see nothing but experience more, and whether that's more channels or just better quality, ideally both. In a lot of cases, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. So I mean, we're seeing this crossover between, you know, both sides. We're seeing at the higher end, it's more about the use of the space and the aesthetics of the space and so on. The other problem that both sections of the market have is clientele. Clientele getting older. Where's the young blood coming? Where is the new clients coming in, and so on? And Martin, it was interesting to see one of the big established brands, JBL, well known for their professional cinema installations and everything else. At the high end, they do synthesis and so on. That's been around a very, very long time. But it's really interesting to see that they've gone right for the latest generation. And when I say the latest generation, I mean of client, the younger generations with their new AVR and Stage 2 speaker system.
Yeah, very much so. And they are back to basics receivers. And they sound pretty good, certainly from my experience with the budget level. And of course, they are also introducing 5.1 speaker packages to go in as well. So they're making the choice easier for the consumer. And I would certainly say, yes, I think they are going for the younger generation. The design aesthetic is quite modern, I suppose. And I think they're trying to rewrite the rule book a little bit for receivers, make them very easy to use. And their GUI, their graphic interface is definitely simplistic, but I do believe it's a new take. And certainly in terms of design and performance. They seem to be getting the price just about right as well.
Yeah, and again, this is something that we've been seeing throughout the year. We've been seeing new product like the Canvas. There's a new Marantz speaker which I managed to experience at the weekend at Peter Tyson's Hi-Fi show, which I'd never had anything like it before, and it looks amazing as well. So we're actually seeing brands thinking about product aesthetics, thinking about the performance, trying to blend that together as well. So my only concern at this point is the AVR, and does the AVR have a future, or is it going to become even more niche, Ed? We still got the likes of Marantz and Denon really pushing the higher end stuff, and it's great to see the A1 from Denon, £6,500 AVR built like a tank, like we're used to seeing in the years gone by and so on. And I'm waiting on the A10 coming in for review, which is the replacement for the X8500, which is the sort of £4,000 area of the market. So again, 13.2 channels amplification. But is it becoming a niche of a niche?
It's certainly becoming less prevalent. There's no getting around that. There's good reasons for it. In certain, lower levels price points, there are more convenient solutions that ticked all the boxes that the people that were buying, that a significant number of the people were buying more affordable AV receivers for. They're now doing those things better. So there's bleed off there. I'm not seeking to be contentious here, but part of the problem is as well that this is an industry that did an awful lot to kill itself. If you tell people every single year that, hey, here's the new one and your old one is shite, there's, sooner or later people will just give up and just say, I don't have time for this. Now, the high end actually sort of inured itself. It protected itself better by maintaining a longer product lifespan and splitting processors and amplification and so on and so forth. So you weren't reduced to junking everything every 36 months. More affordable products just couldn't do that. And sooner or later, the public goes, do you know what? Fool me once, fool me twice, so on and so forth. I'm not doing this anymore. And that's not to say that there is no market for more sensibly priced one-box AV receivers, but it is a reduced market. And in a reduced market, the most innovative, well thought out and user-friendly products will survive, and all the people who are doing it in a gently half-assed fashion will not. And that's the sort of mechanics of it. From the outside looking in, I think there is still enough of a path to get people from a formative multi-channel AV experience through to the high end. In some ways, it's a more cohesive path to the high end than 2-channel currently has, which has absurdly capable, affordable products, a hulking great gap in the middle, and then genuinely excellent high end. Multi-channel actually has an easier time of it than that, but it is not the populated space where, you would get tests together of 10 companies worth of AV receivers at sort of 500 quid. Those days are gone, but that's not a bad thing. It just reflects that there are different ways of doing things.
And you see, Ed, what we're talking about here is this crossover and these hi-fi amplifiers having HDMI eARC now on board and being able to do video switching and so on. But that was traditionally the role of your Denon and Marantz and Yamaha and so on. So why are they not jumping on this bandwagon? Neil, why are we not seeing products like this in the mid-range market where it does everything anyway? So why are they not releasing something that is more of a crossover product?
Well, I think it's a difficult question to answer, and I think Ed touched on quite a few of the points there of why that might be a difficult thing. Mid-market is always a very difficult place to be also, let's not forget. I actually think one of the things that's interesting, one of the big arguments against an AVR as a living room product is the physical size of it. It's not so common now to have that cabinet underneath the telly and all that type of stuff. I know for me, that's where I started out with the AVR in the living room. And I do sometimes wonder, what's the path that we've got these days? It's sound bar. Kind of, there's a gap then for someone that would like to have a real surround sound before you're into a fairly reasonable package. And I do often wonder if there's just a gap in the market. who here remembers a home theater in a box? I
Mm.
can tell you when I was a student, if you had that Sony, what was it, S200, then you were the you were the guy who had
When
that
I
stuff.
arrived at Richard, it was the DAVS 500. Used to
There
sell
you
them by the
go.
pallet.
There you go. Yep, I was a Curry's guy in that time, so we also used to punt those things out.
Mm.
And I often think that, you know what, my living room could use that right now. That would be a very easy product, a little bit better quality than the sound bar, a little bit more amplification and stuff like that. I'd be able to position the speakers a little bit better than what I can do with a sound bar, and it would be a very interesting solution. Now, if you look at the AVRs, there's very few of the companies who have looked at that from an aesthetic perspective. JBL, obviously, who we just spoke about, that's one of the key things that they looked at, was making it look good. What else have you got? There's a little Marantz, but there's no one else who's really making, for a consumer level, a really like compact AVR. Now, believe it or not, in professional, that's one of the fastest growing bits of the market. Companies like Anthem, Audio Control, there's a couple of other ones who have, 1U little AVRs, little things like that, actually designed to mount behind the TV.
Mm.
And I actually think in a lot of ways, those are what really a lot of consumers would like to have.
Yeah.
But you're kind of talking like a channel conflict as much as anything else.
It's
those
weird,
types
isn't it?
of
Because
products.
it takes a leap on the part of a retailer. It also takes, as you say, it takes a level of just reequating your train of thought. The real estate on the back of a television is enormous. It's a vast space, and the sins that you can hide behind that whilst keeping everything else tidy. I don't actually think we've really started scratching the surface of what you could do with that space. It's a very, very good point, well made. And that could, if you're going to do your predictions for 25, that could end up being quite a pertinent one, I suspect.